week's episode. I can't explain how excited I am for this week's episode. One of my guitar heroes for years, since I've started playing guitar, has been Brian Setzer. First from the Stray Cats, and then you may know him from Brian Setzer Orchestra. He went on to do lots of other greatness, but such an amazing guitar player. When he came out in the 80s, there was nobody that was doing anything like that, in 1982-ish. And really brought a return to rockabilly and, kind of bebop and jazz and rock and punk. It's all fused into Stray Cat stuff. Anyway, long story short, about a year ago, I bought an amp from him. So I own an amplifier now that belonged to Brian Setzer. And I can't believe it. It was one of these things where he sold a bunch of gear on Reverb, and I jumped on that and saw one of the amps that I actually was eyeing the model. It's not the blonde 63 Bassman that he's famous for. I was actually looking for a blackface Vibrolux. No, not a Vibrolux. Yes, a Vibrolux Reverb. I'm looking over here to make sure I've got it. My amp's over there. You'll see a picture of it in just a sec. So I bought this Vibrolux Reverb from him. 210s, blackface. I think it's about a 40 or 45 watt. And all the specs I'll leave in the description. You can get a look at it right now, see what it is. Here's the certificate of authenticity that came with it, which is great. But I wanted to say, hey, I just bought an amp from Brian Setzer. Let's see what one of his songs sounds like on it. So we're going to go through Stray Cat Strut, which is just epic. Lots of greatness in there. And let's see how it sounds. I'm just going to go through the sections. So we're going to talk about the intro, the verse sections. There's 2 guitar solo sections, and a nice tasty little outro that we'll do. All right, so with that, here's how that goes. So how does the song open? It opens with drums and bass. I'm not going to go with a track on this one. And then it comes in with Brian playing a great little intro. So the song is in C minor. It oscillates between sort of a descending run based off of C minor and then F minor. And there's some turnaround chords in there too. So he's tuned to standard tuning as far as I could tell. Yes, I recognize this is not a Gretsch 6120, which is what he played on, but this is what I got that's closest to it. And I actually think it sounds a lot like the record that you'll hear on here. So, okay, so the song is introed with the bass descending. Just a chromatic walk down from C all the way to F, landing on C. So he plays his little intro. Great. So it's based on the C minor chord in C minor pentatonic. I think he just grabs the 2 strings. One word of advice when you're playing like Brian, in my opinion, you're hitting those strings pretty hard, especially on the Stray Cat songs. He really digs in on them. Excuse the mistake. So I'm going to slide up to 8 on the E and B strings. Bend up. Then you're going to make this, I think it's an augmented chord. It's a G augmented. You sort of use your palm mute to pick the strings individually. Okay, so that intro, you slide up from 7 to 8. And you do that little bend on the G string. G augmented. So it's G augmented. Slide down 2 frets to 6, and you're playing the G and the B strings. 7 on D. 8 on G. All right, so that's the intro. And then you hear him do octaves. I think he's playing with his fingers. Starting from 8, 6, 4, 3. So it's C, B flat, A flat, G. Right? And behind that, he plays that twice, mimicking what the bass is doing, sort of. And then he plays chords. So it's C minor, B flat 7, or dominant 7, A flat dominant 7, G7 dominant 7. So I find that he's picking the root with his thumb, just sort of grabbing the strings on the upstroke. Tuck the pick back in here. So you're playing the intro lick with your pick. See, and you just tuck it back there. I've seen him play live tons of times. He's doing this all day long, moving in between the pick and tucking it. All right, so those are the verses. So there's a part where it goes then to the similar run on the second section of a verse, I guess, which is based on F minor now. Right? So it's the same interval that we did on the C. And it's a F, I think it's a F minor 7. So I'm taking the pinky off the G string on your F minor up here. And I don't think he's doing fancy chords on the record. Live, he does all kinds of crazy variations of these chords. You know, on the main run, he's doing things like that. But I'm here to, let's just stick to the record for this. So F minor 7, E flat 7, D flat 7, C7. And then he's got that at the end of it, right? Okay, so let's get to the guitar solo now. So on the guitar solo, it's just over the sort of verse framework. Alright, we're going to start at our 8 minor pentatonic position on 8. Alright, so that was just a little run through. So what's each one of those parts? You're going to bend up. That's just based on C minor pentatonic. Then slide down 2 frets. Because you think of what the chords are doing there. This part is the... So you're just getting the root note of that A flat to G. He hits it hard. It's a hammer on with his pinky. And then it's a little walk up on a C minor pentatonic down here in this position. Slide in 2 to 3, 2 to 3, slide in. And then really cool part here. He just makes, now remember where the chords are, right? All he does is just making that part of the chord. Use the Bigsby on that if you got one. Cool. All right. Now he's going to hit these really hard. Now this is just the normal it's playing it over that, but he's going to play it from the mini bar chord position here on 3. And he's not going to play the full bar chord. He's going to play a portion of that 7th chord on each one. And the way you do that is you bar over, you're going to do your index finger bar over the strings 1 through 4 at the 5th fret here to start it. At the 6th fret, sorry. And your middle finger is going to grab the G string on 7. Because that's the part of you're just not playing strings 5 and 6, right? But you're going to hit it hard. So you hit it. No. So you're just again hitting those chord parts on those pieces. And then the diminished run. This is great. So diminished scale is, I think it's a whole step plus a half step. But the scale is based on he's going to use that to climb from this position C to that position C. And the way the scale goes that he uses it is he starts on 5th string, 3rd fret, and you just climb 3 frets. Then you slide your finger, same interval, you just slide your fingers over a string and up 1 fret. Over a string and up 1 fret. Over a string and up 1 fret. So he slides into that 2nd note, but I just wanted to show you what the notes are. That's the next note in the scale, but we'll get there in a second. So what he does on the record is right? So that'll take a while if you haven't done that scale before. I'm using my index and pinky. And the last little part is just ending on the C minor pentatonic, but that climb gets you there. And then he comes out of the solo, you're moving from C minor to F minor, and he plays these little, just on the G and the B string, he's going to climb from C minor to F minor. Right? So, playing it on 8, I've got my middle and ring finger grabbing the G and the B string on 8, 9, and 10. 2 frets up. And then you end on the F minor position on 13. All right. And then it goes into the, I guess it's the bridge section. Let's take a look at that. So the bridge section is based in F minor. I don't bother chasing mice around. F minor and F minor 7. C minor. So those chords are F minor 7 and C minor, and he's putting in an add 9, I think that is. Down to the other C minor position on the 3rd fret based on the A string. Just pick that up. And the first time he does this section, comes back up here. D7. And then the turnaround chord is, I think that's another way to play G augmented. You want to get that note. Then back to your... So that's the first time he does it. The second time he does it a little differently. Starts up here. Then he goes down the F. Then up an octave. So same chord, same fingering, just up an octave. Then back to your D. Go into our last section. Alright, so let's talk about the second solo section. So the second one's a little differently. He plays sort of half of it with some soft, jazzy passing chords. And then he announces into an actual solo to close it out. So those first chords, he's using the verse chords, but he's just eliminating the B flat. And he's just playing it softly a little differently. So over this groove, he's starting with the C minor down here on 3. Plenty of Bigsby. C minor, A flat. So just skipping that B flat. And every once in a while, when you hit that G, see if you can grab that little flat 5, which is this note. That's the B string on 4. So moving from A flat, that note is in. Right, a little bit different sound, but you just sort of flatten down your middle finger to try and grab that a little bit. Don't have to be perfect with it, just see if that note can show up every once in a while. Not every time. Right. So that's the first part. And then he announces, the actual solo part now. Then you're going to throw in a diminished chord here. The diminished chord is here's the picture, but the index fingers on D string at 10, your middle fingers on the B string at 10, ring finger at G string at 11, pinky at E string at 11. So those diminished chords are in there. Remember we did that run earlier. Right? So it's all part of that scale. So he announces that solo part. Just starting with that diminished chord, and you bring it down a fret. Back to your, which is just your minor pentatonic there. And then you always want to sort of have your hand on your Bigsby or your pinky on that. You're just going to sort of wiggle everything around. Right, so after the diminished, it's finger on 11 on the A string, middle finger on D string at 10, index finger on G string at 8, and then you slide it down 1 fret. And just wiggle that Bigsby bar around. Same thing there. And then the big ending. Right? So that's just a minor pentatonic run, starting from your C minor position. Right? So just slow that down. Use plenty of feel in that, and you're going to end on that G, which is going to then lead you back into that I don't bother chasing mice around part in the F, right? So it's a nice way to sort of lead back down into that. You're all right there in that position. Okay. And then the last little outro riff is just sort of like the intro, but he just wants to close it off. So it's a little, it starts out the same and then it ends a little different. Right? So that little last part is G on 10, A string on 10, 12, D string on 9, D string on 10. So it starts out minor, ends major to bring it to a close. And then the big chord at the end is just a C minor add 9. So there you go. Hey, thanks for joining us this week, everybody. That was me on Brian Setzer's amplifier. I can't believe it. It's a 1990 Custom Vibrolux Reverb that he owned, and he sold it last year. No idea where he played it, if he actually played it, but I've got the certificate. I've got his signature. He owned it. That's great. I think it sounds fantastic. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But if you've got the guitar, you want a Gretsch 6120 if you can get it. If you can't get a Gretsch 6120 or something close to it, this seemed to work out great. Any sort of hollow body guitar that's got a neck and a treble pickup, put it on the middle setting, roll your tone back a little bit, put your amp right on the edge of breakup, hit those strings hard like Brian did, and you'll sound just like him on this fantastic song. So let me know in the comments what you think about this week. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. We're dropping content every single week. Let me know what you'd like to hear and see next week. Until then, take care, everybody.